Today's episode is brought to you by the last episode of 2016. We hardly knew ye.
Drop the beat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. For the last time in 2016, I am your host, The Blevins, and with me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much. What's going on?
Man, it's crazy. We didn't even realize this, or at least I didn't realize this, until literally seconds before we started recording, that this is actually the last episode we're going to be doing in the year of 2016. Crazy to think that. So for those of you listening now and staying up to date, we are not going to be recording the day after Christmas for reasons that I probably don't need to explain, and I won't. Holiday stuff and holiday vacation. We're taking 1 week, okay? We haven't taken one in a while. We're taking one, and I don't even care. I mean, I do care, but I don't feel bad. is much more apt. So, without further ado, let's talk about what did we do last week. Deathblow, you want to start it off, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, really kind of just, we had the patch, I believe, dropped on us shortly after we recorded the last episode. So, as a Symmetra player, that was obviously a grand old time for me. I did a lot of making up for my subpar start to the season, and really, yeah.
For the subpar start, not for the making up part.
I wish I could blame you, but you weren't even involved in like a third of my losses. I don't think. I've been below 50% win rate before the patch, so it was definitely rough. Obviously, the bad start was bad, but I didn't climb from there, you know what I mean? I kind of hung there for a little bit. So, but yeah, the patch came out, and I basically just swapped into like maining Symmetra whenever it makes sense. Feel free to do your loud yelling now if you want.
Attack Symmetra! Activate!
Yeah, so I did not play Attack Symmetra. I only played her on defense. I did not really mess with her on King of the Hill either. I figured I would let better players than myself decide for me if that was something I should pursue. Yeah. But obviously her shield generator is an absurdly powerful tool that was added to her kit, and now her right click as well is a really powerful block to some ultimates. There's no better feeling as a Symmetra than hearing that it's high noon and just right clicking or sending your shield at them. It's phenomenal just how they're stuck and can't do anything.
Not right click.
It's E. It's the old shield your teammate. Yep. So, but yeah, so I've just been having a lot of fun with her, and actually, honestly, it took days for me, not games, in order to suffer my first loss after the patch. And from there, I mean, even that first loss there was a lever involved, and it was a King of the Hill match, so I wasn't playing Symmetra. And I ended up, I want to say, up like 250 to 300 rating points from where I started. As far as by the time I lost a game that involved me playing Symmetra, I was up like 250 to 300 points. So I've been really, really liking the new patch, and I was really, really hopeful that we would start to see some Symmetra in tournament play.
Yeah, we saw a little bit, and we actually saw a little bit when we had our little high noon hangout at my place. Ate some delicious chicken wings and pizza. Watched MLG Vegas. It was fun.
Yeah. We audibled from the souvlaki that nobody's ever heard of before, that we talk about so much.
It's so good. But, and I'm sure everyone has had this happen before, sometimes you just are in a pizza and wings mood. I mean, as Buffalonians, that's most of the time for us, but this is one of those times where I was like, you know what? I just want to eat a bunch of Texas barbecue grilled wings, and that's exactly what we did.
Yes. Yes, we certainly did. It was a really good time. We got to watch I think 3 matches instead of 4, right? Because there was the postponement for the Envious opening match of the tournament, as Taimu had some visa issues, I believe, or some travel related problems.
Yeah.
That didn't let him get to the event right away, and obviously, as we'll learn later on, it wasn't a huge hindrance for them. But I was glad to see him able to get there and participate instead of having like this big, DQ or ID. I did it.
Got there. You got to get them all out now, because 2017 is going to be a no joke, no tangent year.
Right. We need new memes. We can't be relying on the old ones.
We cannot be relying on my dong anymore.
Right. Words and stuff. So
Definitely
anyway,
not going to talk about my dong in 2017.
It's already a phenomenal start to the year.
Because my dong doesn't exist anymore. It's not there.
All right.
It's not going anywhere, folks. My dong in 2017.
In an effort to break his unilateral line of thinking here, Blevins, what did you do this week? No.
Yeah.
So what'd you do this week, man?
What did I do this week? I don't know, man. I played a lot of Overwatch. I played a lot more Overwatch than I usually do. I just been getting in a groove. A couple of my buddies have wanted to play. Did we? I don't think we actually played at all this week. Maybe early on.
I was gonna say, I think you caught some of the early wave of my Symmetra tear.
Yeah,
I think you might have been my first teammate. To
we did.
My snap picking Symmetra.
I wanted to play Symmetra, and you kept picking it too fast.
Yeah, you kept trying to lock me out of it, and I wasn't having it.
I wasn't trying to lock you out of it. I legitimately wanted to play it, but it didn't happen.
Never.
Never. Yeah, never. Severed.
Never not Symmetra again. Not Symmetra, that's my new motto.
Yep. But yeah, played a little bit with you. Played with Penne. Played with Apex and Solus, and actually one of my other buddies, Snark, has been playing his placement matches. He got plat, so he's just slightly ahead of me. It's like a couple 100 points ahead of me. But I've been climbing the last couple days. I went up roughly 200 points. I've got a season high right now, not a career high. I'm still 100 points behind my career high. So we're getting there. I think I think I can hit plat this season. And once I hit, I just want to go up like 1 rank every season. I think that's a realistic goal. I mean, I want to get top 500. That's the one thing. But let's go step by step. I want to get plat this season and then diamond the next, and then go from there. It'll be pretty fun. I also let's see, what else did I do? Oh, I played a little bit of Breakaway, the game from Amazon Game Studios. I was really excited about it from TwitchCon. I only played a little bit. I don't know. I think it was because the day I played, I was like super tired, and it was at night, and I had to go to work in the morning because I like played on like on a Thursday night. It was just like everything added up against it, and then I didn't even end up playing it again, mostly because none of my friends wanted to play. I just played Overwatch instead. So the jury is still out on Breakaway, for now at least, but I just didn't do it.
It looks really good. I got invited to the alpha as well, and I really, really wanted to play it, but I just wasn't in the stars with the tournament to watch.
Yeah.
Football this Sunday, my mom's birthday this weekend. Happy birthday, Mom.
Got there.
Not that she would ever listen, but I could tell her I gave her a shout out anyways. Sure. That'll count for something, maybe. But yeah, so I just didn't quite get a chance to really participate in that myself. It looks great, and I know you were telling me about some of the features and things that are in it that make us think it's really headed in the right direction, assuming the game fleshes out to be as entertaining as it looks like it has the potential to be. So
yeah, so it's a discussion for another time and another venue, because I could talk for an hour about Breakaway, but I'm not going to now. Definitely check it out if you guys get the chance. You can sign up at playbreakaway.com, I think, for alpha release. I think the alpha is closed, or by the time you hear this, it'll be closed again. But I think they're going to be having more weekends and probably an open alpha or open beta or something at some point. So sign up, playbreakaway.com, and let us know what you think. Or let them know what you think, because we're not a Breakaway show. But let's move on to another one of our great segments that we actually have a drop built for.
Overwatch Today meme of the week.
We had quite a few good memes this week, or I guess last week, from Overwatch Today. So we had our episode 50 last week, so we were reminiscing a bunch, and Overwatch Today ended up making a couple of memes about that. So the first one was, if you're on the show, you're basically our best friend, EP50 hashtag feels. Which is 100% true. If you are on the show, you are essentially our best friend. One note that I'll make, and Overwatch Today, if you're listening to this, just use the right you are next time, please. I am grammar Naziing right now. just this apostrophe. Okay, I'm done.
Or just use you are, or just go all the way super lazy with
That's
it,
fine.
and then it's not like a mistake; it was a choice.
Okay. That is also acceptable. You will get the Blevins grammar Nazi blessing from that. The next one was another show reference. Dramatically no regrets. EP50, another great one. And then the actual meme of the week goes to the was one that he made about my comment about the Overwatch subreddit, about how r/Overwatch users love the mystery dual meta hashtag true gamer. It's a picture of I don't even know how to describe an overweight hipster with a scarf and a hat, and has a Reddit on his shoulder. It's basically what I look like without the beard and with a scarf instead.
I was going to say it's a pretty fair, like, just combination of the two of us if you were to dress us up like him.
If you added a scarf and removed the beards, it's what we would look like.
Yeah.
That's always so good. But let us move on to our next segment. It's tournament talk. Man, these drops just really make my job easy. So good. So we had a couple of tournaments to talk about, a couple big ones this week. So we had, of course, we mentioned we saw MLG Vegas, where we saw Envy, Cloud9, FaZe, and Fnatic in the top 4 of that. And we saw Envy just dumpster FaZe 4-0 in the finals of that one. And we also, over in Korea, had IEM Gyeonggi. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. I'm going to laugh if it's just not, and they're like, actually, it's Gyeonggi, and you just sound like an idiot saying it like that. But I sound like an idiot anyway, whether it's true or not.
Yep.
But in IEM Gyeonggi, we saw Africa Freaks Blue, Lunatic High, Luxury Watch Red, and Rogue in the top 4, and we saw Luxury Watch Red beat Lunatic High 3-1 in that one.
Wait, so hold on. In that tournament, though, didn't
I just know exactly where you're going, and everyone who's ever listened to knows exactly. Yes,
I thought
Misfits was in the tournament, aka
but you didn't.
Pluppy's current team, and no, I didn't say they were in the top 4, and no, that wasn't an error. They just didn't happen to make the top 4. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Their first match together as a team, they had 5 hours of practice total as a team together. They play against they play against Lunatic High in the first round, who are no slouches, by the way. Miro, one of the best players in the world, MVP of the Overwatch Open, Miro, the same one, plays for that team. Korean esports team already. Not okay. I'm doing too much defending here. Yeah, they lost.
This is what your list of excuses looks like, if you're wondering.
It's just a long. It's a long list, and none of them have any sort of merit. Actually, they kind of do, but it was interesting to see. On a more serious note, yes, I'm sad, and yes, I'm burning my Misfits jersey. No, I don't even have it yet. I'm gonna order one and tell them to send it pre-burnt. No, I'm kidding. But it was interesting to see because we've talked about this ever since the three-way trade, the big three-way trade between Misfits, Rogue, and Luminosity. It's like, who are the winners, who are the losers? What teams have upgraded? What teams have stayed the same? What teams have downgraded? I mean, I think it's too early to tell still. Very little practice. But, Misfits is a team that didn't, just looking at their roster, doesn't really benefit as much as some other teams from the triple/quad tank meta that we have been seeing. So, Pluppy, obviously one of the best DPS players in the world, possibly not at his absolute best at Zarya, which he played a lot of. Would definitely like to see him on, the McCrees and the Soldiers and the Genjis, which we did see a little bit of.
I'm looking for a pen so I can add to your list of excuses. Okay, yes. I got one. It's not really a pen, but I'm going to pretend like it is.
We're going to pretend like we're writing. We need a scribbling on a piece of paper.
Tank meta whining. Okay, got it.
Yes, I'm turning on myself. No, but honestly, like, I think it's probably a little bit too early to tell. It's definitely too early to tell the fate of Misfits. They made some risks, changing their team to an all Swedish team. They mentioned a little bit why they did that. Being able to communicate in the same language is something that, as Americans, we probably underestimate a little bit, considering mostly everyone in the world speaks English forever. But if you think of a world where everyone on the team speaks English, but English is not everyone on the team's first language, and not everyone on the team is speaking English at the same level, that's got to be frustrating when you're trying to compete at a high level. So I 100% understand why it happened from that perspective. I think we still need to give Misfits some time, some tournaments, and really some practice time, honestly, before we can really judge them. Though, obviously, as the guttural reaction fans that we are here on the show, we're going to call worst team NA, even though they're not in NA.
Right. Obviously, I mean, these trades weren't all about, but this is what I was worried about. I mean, when we talked about how I wasn't sure I liked this trade from the Misfits side of things, they were the team that went to LANs, that played their style game and won, didn't care what the meta was, and they had a phenomenal track record of going into those LANs. To me, it was questionable, but it's still up for debate. I mean, it's not, was it an overall success or failure, but it's, when I was talking about the writing that winners and losers article, which spoiler alert, I'm not going to write it.
Oh, scum.
It's just too late at this point. I just put it off too long. And I want to write about Vegas. So I'm going to focus on that. But so I don't know. It was a little tough to see them. I'll say from what I saw of their matches, and I was awake again because I had my little mini vacation, and so I was awake at 3 a.m. when the matches started, and they looked like a team that was new, that had a roster shakeup. They didn't look like themselves. They didn't look like Rogue used to at times, and they definitely had a lot to work on, and their lack of preparation and practice as a full six definitely showed. That will get better over time. I don't have long-term concerns for them. Just curious as to whether or not they kind of get that land magic back again, because that's really what they specialized in, and it was awesome to see. You all the analysts and all the people in the Overtalk and the casters can make predictions based off what they've seen for the last month and a half. But when a team just shows up and in person performs much better than they do on PC or on the, over the internet, it really just takes everything and throws it out the window. And there's something about watching that happen that's very entertaining. So I'll be curious to see if they can get that back in the next couple events.
Yeah, look, there's no arguing that, at least from a tournament win perspective, that it was a downgrade, at least in the short term, right? Misfits won DreamHack and they won E-League. So, like, anything but a win was going to be disappointing. For what it's worth, watching the actual matches, it was a lot closer than the score would lead you to believe.
Do I need the list again?
Yeah. Bust out the list.
I'll just keep it out.
If you look at the matches, okay. First map was Kings Row. First map was Hollywood. or Kings Row, one of the two. But those were the two maps of the. It's map selection. No, it has nothing to do with. They tie both of those maps. Okay, they tie Kings Row and Hollywood. They both go to the one game playoff, which is a one map King of the Hill, which Misfits loses both of those. Okay, so they need to work on their King of the Hill, and then the third map is King of the Hill, which they lose. So yes, keep the biggest thing it looks like is that they just need to work on the King of the Hill, because if they win their King of the Hill matches, they win. But no.
So I'm adding map selection, and then Koth is a bad game mode.
Koth is a bad game mode. Also add that to the list. Koth should be removed from the game mode. Add Capture the Doomfist, which we talked about in like episode like 5 or something. That actually might have been like episode like 3, like one of the earliest episodes we talked about those game modes. But yes, add Capture the Doomfist, add that to the list too. But no, I'm gonna, of course, as a true
Terry Crews,
as a true dedicated fan, I'm going to write this off as malarkey, and we'll see them win the next 10,000 tournaments, and it'll be great.
Yeah, I think the team honestly would have loved to have made it into the top 4 and gotten into the finals. But they definitely, there's no way they expected to produce at the same level after a change up like that. Like, this was nothing. I'm giving them quite a hard time about it, but this is nothing that is out of the ordinary, I wouldn't think, or unexpected to have seen. You know, I kind of thought they'd win that first round, but they weren't quite able to pull it off. And like you said, they did not have a sleeper of an opponent or anything like that. You know, they had possibly some of the best players in the tournament on the other side. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I mean, they lost to a finalist, so that's always good. Do you want to talk a little bit more about Vegas, or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. We've got, if you guys have listened from the last LAN, we stumbled across the Winston's Lab website, which provides excellent statistics into the metagame breakdown, the pick rates, things like that. I didn't remember seeing this from the last time, but they have like stats about each map and the pick rates on each map and things like that. I didn't use them or include them because I need to look at them more to fully understand them, because if I'm looking at it, they're counting Roadhog as a DPS player, and that makes some of the numbers a little weird to look at. Yeah. So I want to delve into that a little more before we go into it. But when we look at things here, we have a very clear picture of what's being played and what's not being played in this metagame. And I'm going to read you guys down the list. I'm not going to read you the percentages, but I'll let you know when they drop below 90%.
Yeah, and all of this and these notes are going to be available to you guys. Just take a look at the link in the description for those in podcast land and in YouTube world.
Yeah, so essentially we have 3 characters that really stand out. Reinhardt, by far the most played. There's a 5% difference there. He comes in at 97%. Lucio is the next highest played, and Anna. So the supports really seem to have solidified as far as what people are going to choose to play at any given time. We did see some variation on that. We'll get into that more in a little while. But we have coming in the the second tier here, 70 to 75 range, we have Roadhog, Zarya, and Diva. So really all 3 of your tanks kind of coming in there. Yep. People are using a different combination of them at times. Your first DPS to show up on the list comes next at Soldier 76, but he's only seeing play 31% of the time. So that is a really, really low number considering he is the most played, and by a 2-to-1 margin still over Tracer. Yeah. And as I remember talking about that last time with DreamHack, that he was 2-to-1 over Tracer. So it's not really a surprise to see them the same, but I'm a little surprised that it turned out to be Tracer in that number 2 spot for the DPS. In my head, I just don't remember seeing a ton of her.
Yeah, I mean, she only has about a 15% play rate, so like it would make sense 85% of the time you're not seeing her. So
Yeah, and I think part of the reason too that she's going to get up there is because she's such a good choice in the last minute when you're the first person on your team to die in that last fight. You know, you're going to switch to her, and then let's say you have an extended overtime, you're kind of adding 4 minutes of tracer play to the numbers where you really didn't play Tracer. It was just kind of that last second panic to get to the point and participate at all. So that's going to help her numbers a little bit in a situation like this as well.
And seeing the more Zarya play is going to help her out too. Even if you want to pick her before the end of the point, you can still have that wombo combo of Tracer, of Graviton Pulse Bomb. Although we didn't see it as much as we used to, but it was still there.
No, but what we did see was really reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
You know, they called the Tracer, the Graviton Pulse Bomb combo, the Big Bang combo. And what we're seeing now, they're calling the Bigger Bang combo, and that's the Zarya Diva combination. And really this, you know, we saw it so prevalently, and it stood out so much, especially in that first day. I remember when we were hanging out watching, it made me go, Levins, we need to get into some custom games and like practice this aim of dropping your Diva mech exactly where your Zarya can expect it to be, so that she can go and put her Graviton there before it lands. And you know, a lot of times people have been defending the self-destruct from the Diva with a Reinhardt shield, but if the Reinhardt's caught in the Graviton and you place the Diva on the Graviton, you can't possibly wall everybody off from it. Right. And we've seen, you know, Mickey and really countless players, all the teams, it spent a lot of time practicing this combo, and it was very apparent because their Divas were just pinpoint dropping their self-destructs, and the Zaryas were playing around it perfectly and comboing it just to game-breaking perfection. Like, I mean, it was instantaneous, 4 people dead, and then it becomes just a 6-on-2, and that's, you know, anybody can win that fight.
And what was even better was it was 4 people dead, 1 would escape, and a Diva mech would get blown up. So then what happens is the one escapes and goes back, okay, the Diva mech gets blown up, and the Ana just immediately sleeps the Diva. And they wait and wait and wait as long as they can, and then they kill the Diva to stagger off the death. We saw, I believe it was Envious. We saw a couple of teams. It might have been Fnatic, might have been Envious. Maybe it was even Cloud9. I think it actually might have been Cloud9. But these top-tier teams who have great Anas are just able to stagger that last Diva death. Like, Diva is great because you can stay alive forever, but also it can be a detriment that she can stay alive forever because you end up getting staggered when you get your baby Diva slept and then killed right when the team is respawning. So little things like that end up being huge, especially at the highest levels of play.
Yeah, the kill staggering is definitely a high-end tactic, and it's really just kind of been slowly improving and getting more prevalent over time. As the teams get more comfortable, they're learning to wait on that last kill. You know, for me personally, the instinct is to just murder them as soon as humanly possible, right? Like, you just got to get it over with. But it's not the best, and it's gotten to the point now where in this tournament, and I don't remember who it was that did it, but I distinctly remember a baby Diva living long enough that the team tried to reinitiate the fight just to get the Diva back. Like, they got back together, grouped up, and it took multiple sleep darts before they killed the Diva, because a Roadhog hooked the baby Diva out of the way to like pull her back when she got close. Like, they are getting crazy, scary good at the delay game. Yeah,
and it, like, when you think about Overwatch, which is such a game, which is a game of seconds, really. Like, we've seen matches where it comes down to the last second, and, you know, a team not being able to put, like, it's a game of seconds, and when you can delay, you know, 15, 20, 25 seconds off of their time because they can't push without their Diva, it's like, it's insane. And when you're doing that multiple times a fight, like, or multiple times a match, that's, you know, it's game breaking.
Yeah. So getting back to the numbers here a little bit, though, we do start to see just kind of a smattering of random DPS characters towards the bottom of the list, seeing sub 10% pick rates. Everybody except for poor Junkrat saw at least 30 seconds of play. Bastion came in at 32 seconds. So that's diversity if I've ever seen it. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, there's a little bit of a problem here. We've been talking about it over the last couple weeks. The triple and the quad tank meta is not even really a polarizing topic. I think in general, people don't really care to see it. And it's curious what it's going to take in order to break it. The popular opinion that I've seen is that Anna's the problem. Her burst healing capabilities are just too good at bringing all those guys back up. The biotic grenade. I can only remember the non-PC thing that it gets called.
Girardi?
No, it's a jar that snipers usually carry around that has something in. No, it's just a piss jar. They're calling it. I don't know.
Girardi. That's what it's called in TF2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember. I know that that's what he literally carries in TF2, but I don't. I didn't know what it was called in there. But anyway.
Girardi.
So it's curious to see what they're going to do to go about fixing it. And we've talked about it a couple episodes now about how, it might just be that the teams need to innovate a little more to beat it. And the fact that it hasn't been addressed in the last patch when they just did the Symmetra rework, they could have done something, leads me to think that's what Blizzard kind of thinks is happening. But we'll have to wait and see. It's clear that the Roadhog is just too good at picking people to kind of do without. And the Zarya Diva combo seems really strong. But the one thought I had watching, as it seemed like it got less and less into the 4-2 comps and maybe more into triple tanks with something else, the later we got in the tournament, because I just think that the quad tank and the triple tank compositions are so forgiving that you're able to your deep health pool just makes it so you can peek or you can get a little bit too far out, and your sniper healer that can heal you from a million miles away is going to be able to save you and get you back to your team. So it's
yourself.
So forgiving. Right. But if you're just playing right, if you're not making those mistakes and getting out of position, and you're not exposing your soldiers and your reapers to that extra fire, then you're just getting more from having the extra damage from your DPS characters. So and as it wore down, and towards the end where you started to see some Pharahs, and I know me and you talked a lot about, well, what about the 4-tank comp fights that Pharah other than the Anna? And if the Anna's not healing the tanks, then the tanks are vulnerable. So it seemed like an Anna would be a fairly decent way to combat it, and we saw that a little bit. Obviously you have some teams that do very specific strategies. Complexity didn't last super long in the tournament. Yes, go Fnatic. But they are very well known for running Sombra, and the Sombra hack to bring down the Reinhardt shield is so powerful. The initiation power you get from an EMP, especially if it follows up a Lucio ultimate, is just, if you haven't been in that game and had your Lucio break it down and then had it ripped away from you right away by an EMP, there's not many worse feelings in the world, because you go from just, I'm almost dead, to I'm unkillable, to I'm almost dead again. And it's just so fast if it's timed correctly. And also, we saw some interesting compositions. Cloud9 opened up the tournament with a Symmetra Torb defense that I previewed in the Discord channel. It was really funny, because I had a game where we full held, or not full held, but 0.2 held, like right at the beginning with a Symmetra Torbjorn, because you're getting 150 HP to your team once all the armor packs get distributed and I get the shield generator up. We were just an unkillable wall of humanity that was just standing on top of the cart, and there was nothing they could do about it the entire time. We never lost more than one person for the 5 minutes they had to push that point. And it was just, it felt like something that needed to be a thing. Like there's no way that this much HP isn't a huge boost. And we saw Cloud9 come out, and I can't remember who their opponent was in that first round, but they really took it to him. And I think it was the first map of the first round. And the first thing we saw in this tournament was Symmetra and Torb. Kingdom wasn't there.
You sure?
No, but fairly certain. But yeah, no, it was just a really, great thing to see that there's other opportunities out there. We did see Envious break out some of the Symmetra, and we even saw some good opportunities in this tournament where, it was a teleporter that got dropped instead of a shield generator, because the timing of everything, there were 4 people dead and they needed to get back to defend the point. So they were able to really just add 45 seconds of stall on this point with a teleporter, which is a really big deal, you know. And we talk about how 1 and 2 seconds can be a big deal. 45 is always a big deal. So, you know, really, I think Symmetra's in a really good spot, and I'm really hoping to see these teams kind of innovate a little more with her. As I think once we leave the tournament talk section, we'll talk a little bit more about, you know, about Symmetra and the changes and what we've seen in comp play.
Yeah, it's definitely yet to be seen. I mean, just having played it at, you know, wood tier that I'm in, it is very polarizing to play against a Symmetra. Like, once you get that shield gen up, it's like you're not killing people. If you're at the same like skill level and one team has a shield gen and the other one doesn't, it's like you're just not gonna win. It's so tough, and it's so frustrating, and it's tough because like people forget that Symmetra just does a lot of damage herself. But yes, let us formally move on to the next section.
Oh, let's break it down.
Yes, let us break it down. And yeah, I'd be interested. I've heard like basically every side of the Symmetra coin. It's like, oh, she's broken. She's got it. When are they going to nerf? People aren't even. I haven't heard anyone say, hey, do you think Symmetra should be nerfed? It's like, hey, what are they going to do when they nerf Symmetra? It's like, really? That you're already saying that? Like, she just got changed, and she's seen almost no play. She's seen very little play in competitive in the one tournament that she was legal in. You know, just about under 5% play. Oh, she needs to be nerfed. What?
Yeah. I mean, it's really funny too, because I've had some funny experiences queuing her up so much where you were in the one game where this guy's like, can you switch off Symmetra? And I'm like, I literally just put the shield generator down. Like, you have to know that it's a suboptimal character until you get the shield generator, right? Like we need another healer. We're not doing anything. I proceed to run out on the point and kill 2 of them, and then like knock a diva out of mech, and then we take it back over. And the whole time he's still complaining, like, can you switch off Symmetra, bro? Like, we need another healer.
Use Lucio, bro.
And it's like, just like, you need to understand that what I'm doing as my character is going to be standoffish. Like, I'm not going to run into a fight. I'm not going to be part of the team. I'm going to be off like setting up turret nests and things like, but it doesn't mean like you're adding, and I know you heard me say it a lot. I, for whatever reason, did the math wrong and thought it added 600 HP to your team. It adds, you know, what is it, like 450, I think?
450.
Yeah. So but it adds, you know, 2.5 DPS characters worth of damage to your team that they get to absorb, and it takes so much pressure off of your healers. You know, they don't have to save you in that last minute near as often. They can finish healing up who they're healing and then move over to the tank because he's got that extra couple bullets of damage he can take. It's made a world of difference. And on top of the other kind of quality of life changes and the ability to shut down ultimates or severely disrupt ultimates with your E, the projected photon barrier or whatever it's called. It's just been a whole lot of fun, and it's just great to kind of have that variety. And it was, to me, it feels like they've released a new character because it's just, she was so, like, as somebody that used her, and you know, you were stuck like only when your team got absolutely destroyed on your attack and you have to full hold, was it even maybe worth doing. And even then it was like you almost had to rely on the fact that your team was worse than theirs too. You had to be like confident, like that your team was worse, so you had to throw a Hail Mary. And it's like, so
it was just cheese. It was literally just cheese.
It was terrible. It wasn't. I loved the character, but I hated playing her because of just everything it meant. Like, you're only picking her when you're already going to lose, so you're not going to be having fun, and you're probably not helping. But you're just like, your team's so bad, you're throwing up this Hail Mary, and now she has a place and a home, and I think she can definitely find herself into the tournament play. But it'll take a little experimenting. But we're already seeing it. The fact that we're already seeing it at all in tournaments just tells me that there's something to it. Like, they're definitely seeing positive results in scrims when they try it.
Yeah, it's got to be good, right? For the reasons you said. And you know, I definitely think that just having played against it again at wood tier, but having played against it myself on King of the Hill, it could be pretty strong, and especially those maps where you're not used to seeing a Symmetra. It's like, okay, on like Hollywood, there's only like a couple of places that the shield generator is likely to be. Like, you can pretty much sniff it out. Numbani, same. Like, the maps where you would have potentially seen a Symmetra before, okay, we can sniff it out and know where it's going to be. But on like these King of the Hill maps where like you almost never saw Symmetra, like where the heck is that shield gen? And it's pretty important to get that shield gen. And if you're not getting it, then you're not on the point. Or if you are getting it, then you're not on the point. And honestly, like I could see her seeing play on King of the Hill. Like once you get the point, like defending the point gets so much more effective when you have an active Symmetra up.
Yeah, you're essentially running a gambit. Like, I don't think I would start out as a Symmetra to open a map. I would probably roll out Lucio, but Lucios are known to have a bit of a target on their head, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say you get picked, but your team wins the fight anyways. Now you can switch to Symmetra, know that you're showing up at a point that you control, so you can drop some turrets there, set up some defense, get back spam, and then like once you're already established, you know, it's kind of like a low-key Torbjorn problem, right? Yep. Like with Koth, you don't want to assault a point with Torbjorn or Bastion, but once you have it and you're defending a point, like it's okay. You can definitely make it work. And it's a little bit the same way. The turrets aren't as much of the benefit, but you really need to be able to like spam out their entryway and connect on a couple orbs and really power out that fast shield generator. I've had maps where, you know, literally within the first 45 seconds, my shield generator's up. And it's because you're just spamming the orbs at this corner and you get lucky. It's not a skill thing. It's, you know, it's just, oops, cool. Like you had no way to see it coming. Right. And you know, they couldn't have predicted it was going to be there. They didn't know I was being played yet. And you just get it, you spike it. And it's, if you can pull something like that off, it could definitely be viable. And I really think the only problem with Symmetra, even on attack, is getting to the shield generator. Like, you're just going to make your team so bad that you're going to make it take that much longer. But once you had the shield generator, that really, to me, attack, defense, Koth, game mode, I don't care. That much shield being added to your team as a permanent thing, it's just too powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, you definitely need to have some things going for your team before you can pick Symmetra, at least in good conscience pick her. So she's not a support. That, I think, is the biggest thing. I honestly think they should probably change her character or her hero type to defense, because she's just not a support. Even like with the shield, she's not a support. Like, I don't even understand how you could even think of her as a support. I guess like her teleporter is kind of support-ish, maybe? I don't know. But like, if you have your team built around the Symmetra and you like your team knows that you're doing the Symmetra and like you know that she's able to put out some damage, but it's like kind of inconsistent, like you said, with the right clicks. The turrets can kind of zone people or keep them out of certain places with your death traps and microwaves of death. But if you can build around the Symmetra and your team, and instead of being like, oh, dude, stop being Symmetra, can we get another healer, bro? Like, if you have a good solo healer, like someone who can play, if you have a good Ana, I mean, you can pretty much do anything. But if you have, like, a good Mercy or maybe a good Lucio, although Lucio's tough because his solo healing as Lucio is tough. I guess if you had, like, 3 tanks, Lucio, Symmetra, 4 tanks. I
think it's perfectly fine with Lucio once you get the shield generator down. He definitely lacks a bit of that burst healing in the meantime. Yeah. But once you have the shield to lessen the impact of burst damage, the burst healing is less important. Honestly, I definitely disagree. I think Symmetra's definitely a support character. Really? Yeah, I mean her turrets, as by playing Symmetra, I've come to the opinion that your turrets are about scouting positions, right? Like, so I put one on every doorway or every path of approach on Numbani, so that when I'm standing up in that top doorway where everybody comes 90% of the time, I know, oh, somebody's on the far right, somebody's on the left, so you kind of get that scouting position, and then you're able to make some call outs. I think especially now with the projectile shield that you're able to send out, I think she even kind of more classifies into that support. There's definitely a strong correlation between whether or not you can heal and whether or not you're designated a support character.
Right.
But they're not the same thing. And that's why when we were talking about what Sombra might be, and we kind of half got what we were talking about, but her gun just does way too much damage to be classified as a support. I wanted like a debuff-oriented support. I don't help my team. I hurt the other team, but not in a damagey way, like auras or something like that. So there's definitely a lot of other ways to play, to classify support other than heals. And I would put Symmetra in that category, especially the teleport, being kind of a pseudo resurrect, and the shield obviously being a pseudo heal or a pseudo armor effect. I don't know. I could get your point, but at the same time, I don't think they need to change it. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you're classified as. It's how you play it. But I think when building the team comp, you need to know that the Symmetra is not a healer, and you need someone who can solo heal.
Yeah, almost every time I pick Symmetra, I'm going to my Zenyatta. Hey Zen, can you play someone that solo heals a little bit better? And then if he switches at all, thanks, man. Like, I don't
switches to Soldier 76.
Maybe not Lucio. You know what I mean? And but I don't get into that with them if they do it, whatever. Because I generally feel pretty confident in a pub game. I can get to my shield generator before we're losing that first fight.
True. And I would trust a solo Lucio over a solo Anna at my rank, at least, because boy, are those Annas bad sometimes.
You need like 90 to 95+% hit rate on your unscoped shots with Anna.
And with Lucio, you just need to not die. That's all I care about.
Keep line of sight on your team.
Keep your healing up. I don't even care if you never turn your speed on. Like the speed, anytime you speed boost appropriately, that's just gravy for me. As long as you just basically just stand somewhere where you're not going to die and also heal people and shoot. Just do it on cooldown. Just amp it up every time with heals on cooldown. Like, I don't care. That's a good enough Lucio for me.
Yeah, I would. I mean, and even at Diamond and stuff, if you're getting that from your Lucio, like if that's your end, if that's your weak link, it's not that bad.
Yeah, and just shoot the Reinhardt shield too. Like, I'll take that. That's okay. That's asking too much. It's asking too much for more than one person to be shooting at a Reinhardt shield, apparently.
It's almost asking too much for Lucio to do anything but aim for boops off the map 100% of the time.
If they're my opponents, they're always getting the boops. If they're on my team, never once a single boop. That's just how it is. But we actually have another kind of interesting story to talk about that actually came about today. That goes a little bit into Overwatch League, and some of the speculations behind that and some of the inter-team dealings. And actually, since the story broke, there has been an update, which I don't know if you saw or not, but I did post the link in the notes. Death, if you want to look at that real quick before we start looking at it. It's right below the thing. So what we basically saw was PvP Live reported that CLG, which actually we should take a step back because we didn't actually announce this. So taking a step back into MLG Vegas, Team CLG, Counter Logic Gaming announced their acquisition of their Overwatch
1%.
team. What's that? Oh, the 1%.
The Overwatch team known as the 1%.
The 1%. So the 1%, the team formerly known as 1%, is now under Team CLG. CLG, an esports organization that has been in this the esports scene for a number of years now. Like, they've pretty much always been around since at least I've been following across multiple esports. I actually have met the owner of CLG, #humblebrags, #lame claim to fame. I met him once at TwitchCon, talked to him a little bit. They announced that they acquired a team. And that's pretty exciting. I'm still waiting for Echo Fox to get in to join the fray, but Honestly, at this point, I don't know what. I guess they're just waiting for Overwatch League. But back on topic. So CLG announced their team, and that was on Friday or Saturday. Yeah, it must have been Friday because we saw it in real life. So PvP Live reported that TSM and CLG are establishing an alliance to purchase an Overwatch League slot. So that's an interesting thought because, coming from a sports background, it's not like we see, or a traditional sports background, it's not like we see the Toronto Raptors and New York Knicks like having this joint New York Toronto team that, or like they both like, I don't even know what you would do. Like, how do you brand that team? Do they make a new team? Do they like, I don't know. I know Death, you had some thoughts kind of against this notion.
I was definitely reading the article that you told me to check out before we talked about it and don't know what you just said.
So the TSM and CLG partnership that they talked about in that PvP article.
Oh yeah,
had
I don't know. It's
reservations
to me,
about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's almost a little silly, right? Because they're established names already, so I wouldn't think they would want to go about sharing credit. And it actually looks as though TSM has refuted that article and that claim. So I don't know how much I would, how much stock I put into it. But what we were talking about in the Discord a little bit was what it might mean, towards if they're talking about they have to combine forces to be able to afford or to be able to call the risk acceptable. Whether or not they can afford it is a different story than should they pay for it.
Right.
So whether, if they were going to have to combine forces in order to justify buying a spot in the league, what did that mean the price of the teams were? Are they talking about, billions or millions? And I don't think there's any chance we're talking about billions, right? My Buffalo Bills just sold for just over $1 billion.
Not even close.
Right. So, what level are we looking at here? 1 million, 10 million, 100 million. There's a lot of gap between $1 million and $1 billion. So where are we falling? And personally, I don't think that the teams are going to be priced to where they're going to need to combine forces. I never liked the idea of it just because that's going to create this situation where there's going to be a buyout. There's going to be hard feelings at some point. Like, I don't think they're just going to go on their merry way being half in on the league if it takes off. Like, they're going to want, they're going to want to have their own teams in the long run. So, what are we looking at going forward as far as how much teams are going to cost, and who they were talking to in the past kind of leads you to think they're going to be pretty pricey, right? Because if they were bringing in Robert Kraft, and I can't remember the name of the owner of the LA Rams, but I know he was there at BlizzCon with Robert Kraft, and if you're talking about getting those guys involved and potentially buying teams, they can afford more than I would think an esports organization can afford.
Yeah.
So, I honestly, right. I was thinking more along the lines that those guys were trying to get involved investing in the league itself, not so much buying into a team slot. But yeah, so I mean, we were just kind of discussing the overall pricing of the teams and what it might mean if they had to combine, or if teams are leery about it in any way, shape, or form, which, I don't know if this counts as a reliable source anymore with TSM. Right. Basically outright saying this is not reliable information.
Well, it's interesting. So on the one hand, I agree with what you're saying because you're right. Like, okay, let's just use a different example. Let's say Cloud9 and Envious wanted to combine forces in a quote strategic alliance to buy the spot for LA. Right, because that's probably going to be the LA or San Francisco or somewhere in California is going to be the biggest spot, I would imagine, for esports.
LA or New York.
Yeah. Well, I would say even more than New York because all of tech and all of like esports happens in like SoCal. So probably LA is going to be bigger than New York. I mean, New York, I think in the long run might be bigger. But I think just in terms of like people who care about esports in the US right now and who care about gaming and technology, it's probably LA or like the Silicon Valley area right now. So, but regardless, let's just say that like the LA spot is $10 million or something, and they don't want to take on the full $10 million risk. Okay, so they both put in $5 million, and then what happens? Like, do we have the Envy Cloud 90s? LA Envy Cloud 90s? Like, what happens? Like, do they like form a like third like hybrid company that like owns this team and this spot, and it's managed by both? Like, I have no idea like what the business side of it behind it is, and I think that is very important to think about, because like that doesn't really make sense, at least conceptually, to the uninformed plebs like me. Like, what does happen if they do form this strategic alliance? But on the other hand, like, I think, at least from the people I've been talking with, and like people talking on Twitter and like, you know, colloquially, I feel like people are approaching the Overwatch League like it's going to be a fair system and like everyone gets an equal shot at a spot in the league. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case. Like, I don't think it's like, well, guys, start your esports organizations, because come 2017, it's gold, and we're heading for prospecting for Overwatch League, and grab your fistfuls of gold. It's like, that doesn't, what? It's going to be the top organizations are going, like the top, let's just probably say like under 20, I'm guessing, like definitely under 50. I think 32 teams would be extremely ambitious in the first 2 years. I'm going to say like 16 tops, probably closer to 8 or 10. So I think the top 16 organizations are going to get that. And if there's, I mean, I follow basically every esports organization ever on Twitter. Like, if I see that you're an esports organization, I'm following you. There are hundreds and hundreds of esports organizations that you've never heard of before.
Right.
And they all want a piece of Overwatch League, or like want the like shot at it. And like, I mean, maybe if you get these like random like D tier, B tier, D tier teams that like form these strategic alliances, whatever that means in business terms, I don't know. You know, maybe they can get the Milwaukee spot or something, like, you know,
right?
And like, if you want your piece of the pie, I think you need to do something to get there, and like, you can't just like will $10 million to happen unless you get bought out by someone.
Right. And then when you think about the number of esports organizations that are out there, you think about, we just had 8 teams go to Vegas. CLG and TSM are being in this conversation, weren't involved there, so that takes our number to 10. We have Rogue and Misfits, who weren't in that event. They were playing in a different one, so there's 2 more. You have NRG wasn't in the event, and I'm barely leaving NA on this list just for Rogue and Misfits, because they're literally on the show notes right in front of my face. Yeah. I mean, so the numbers of organizations, and then there's the organizations not in Overwatch, you know, the other ones like the Echo Foxes, things like that.
If you just look at a Counter-Strike tournament or a Call of Duty tournament, you will see a ton of teams that you've never even heard of before watching Overwatch. There's like a Team Diablo or something. I don't know. There's some cool, there's definitely, for what it's worth, there's some cool mascots. But yeah, like these teams you've never heard of before. Like, and if you want a piece of the pie as one of those teams, you got to do something, right? And like, the 76ers aren't going to buy every esports organization out there. So like, if I'm an esports organization, if I'm a brand new esports organization, I'm going to, like, I think the goal is to try to get bought out by some big name, right? Like, you want to get bought by the 76ers, but that's not going to happen. That's happened to like some of the biggest teams. Team Liquid, Cloud9 is working out a deal with the Milwaukee Bucks for $2.5 million. So that's Cloud9, one of the biggest organizations in the world. So like, you know, What do you do?
I did love that Immortals, doing some research this week, I learned that Immortals is co-owned by the Milwaukee Brewers and Linkin Park, the rock band.
That's awesome.
I thought that was one of the coolest ownership groups I've ever heard of in my life. So that was definitely
I don't
fun.
know. Steve Aoki owning Rogue is pretty cool. My Rogue jersey does say Steve Aoki on the back of it too, as well. It's pretty awesome. I mean, it doesn't say it anymore because it's been burnt to a crisp, but
Right.
I don't know, man. Like I think this is some of the more interesting stuff to talk about, and I definitely, now that I'm thinking about it, should shoot Manny a message, see what he thinks about it. Even if it's just to find out for my own, maybe it warrants another hop on the show to talk about it. But like, that's kind of crazy. I would definitely love to hear what he
I think
has
if
to say about
TSM hadn't refuted it, it would be a much better talking point, but
I think that story specifically is less of a talking point, obviously, because TSM basically just said no, that didn't happen, and we'll let you know when we're doing Overwatch stuff. I mean, they also did say that they still are planning on getting into Overwatch. It's just not now. I do think that is an interesting topic to talk about, just not that story specifically. I think the greater issue of like, what are these teams going to do, and like, how much are these spots going to be? I know that I read, so for the League of Legends Championship Series spot, the ones that you can be relegated from, like if you don't do well, you lose your spot, are like $2+ million last year, and they're projected to go up probably closer to $3 to $5 million. And that's for League of Legends, which I don't know if League of Legends would start, if the Overwatch League would start out more or less than what League of Legends is now. On the one hand, Overwatch League is more ambitious than what League of Legends is doing right now, but on the other hand, League of Legends is a much more proven commodity. So
I think the overall numbers, like I think they're going to pay more or about that price for the teams, which should be surprising, except for when you have to realize, like, when you're buying that spot in the League of Legends tournament bracket or whatever, however you call it. It seems weird to call it the League, but I guess we'll have to call it that. When you're buying your spot into the League, you know you can get relegated. Like, you're not buying a permanent spot. You're buying the right to compete now.
Yeah.
Whereas when you buy a team in the Overwatch League, like, yeah, you might end up being the Cleveland Browns of the Overwatch League, but
Cleveland Browns still probably make a lot of money.
Right. Like, there's revenue sharing. There's things like, you're not going broke owning the Cleveland Browns. Your fans in the city of Cleveland just hate you.
And they hate themselves.
Totally fine with that if they're making money. So it seems like a less of a risk, but the risk is really just kind of in like a different spot, I guess, is really the thing.
True. Yeah, it'll definitely be, I guess, true. The risk would be like, if the whole system goes down, but then, and that's even a bigger, but let's,
yeah, it's like
we're
the
not
health and the viability of the game as an esport becomes the risk, rather than like, what if I sign the wrong players? Like, you know what I mean? Then they just kick me out and I lost $2 million.
Right. And that's what happened to the owner of NRG, rip in pepperonis. But yeah, that's definitely, this is the type of stuff that, like, we had Manny on a call on a few weeks ago. Check him out over at tnl.media. He writes about this stuff basically every day. This type of stuff, not always specifically Overwatch, but like the business of esports. And like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I really like talking about this stuff and like thinking about it, because like, it's like so real, because it's happening right now, and like, we see these people, and like, the decisions that they make are going to affect what we talk about on the show about a video game, and like, these business decisions really make a big difference. So I don't know, definitely going to keep you guys updated on that as more things like this develop. But I guess the TLDR is that TSM isn't doing this. But definitely an interesting one. So let's move on. We've got a couple more things to talk about. We do have a match of the week.
Yep.
Oh
Yeah,
man, I had the shame bell ready too.
no, I just didn't put it in the notes yet. But yeah, we're gonna go with the semifinal this week. Really, we've talked about how I'm
MLG Vegas.
Yes, and it's the Fnatic match when they went up against FaZe, and Fnatic was involved in all of the best Overwatch this weekend. Just phenomenal matches. The group decider match between Complexity was down to the last second. Could have gone either way. I mean, could not have been much closer, and really set the bar for the match of the week. So feel free to check that one out as an added bonus. But yeah, we're going to go with the best of 5 semifinal between FaZe. Really good job, and I really, at the end of the day, going into the event, I was very worried about Fnatic's performance on King of the Hill with the map pools being forced and them not being able to take it out of the pool. But they definitely up their game, but in the end, FaZe and Shadowburn on Genji and just the flexibility of that team and their kind of specialty on King of the Hill, I really thought pushed them over the edge and gave them the win to put them into the finals. So make sure you check that out. And like I said, you can't go wrong watching any of the streamed matches from Fnatic this weekend. Very good performance by them.
Yeah, but as always, perpetually the Buffalo Bills, getting almost there, but never quite.
I wish Buffalo almost got there.
I know at this point, yes, we wish we would almost get there. But actually, one thing I forgot to mention from before, and there was actually probably a couple of good segues that I could have used, like at 5 hours ago when we started talking about other things. But I actually, Deathblow and I recorded the video, but Deathblow and I figured out some cool diva spots to launch your mech and launch your alt on the first point of Hollywood. Posted that video. I'll post the link in the show notes. Actually, considering how many views the video got, there might be some people who are first-time listeners from that video. So hello, YouTube people and Reddit people, competitive Overwatch Reddit people. Huge response on that video, so that was great. Definitely have gotten some feedback in order to improve those, and I actually think we got a comment recently saying that they want to see a video like this on Eichenwald. Also got a couple of comments, or at least one comment, saying that they would like to see some like Torbjorn turret spots, or maybe some Symmetra shield gen spots. Like, there's definitely some stuff. I just Deathblow and I basically were like, okay, we want to practice this bigger bang theory, bigger bang combo with Diva and Zarya, and then I'm like, you know what? Let me see if I can get my mech onto like a couple of points, and then we figured it out and made a video, and it's got like almost 2,000 views. So definitely check that one out if you haven't seen it already. Leave a comment on there with what you'd like to see. I'm definitely going to refine those refine the editing, and don't worry, I will be adding more AI Annas to shoot me constantly while we're recording. But yeah, definitely
anything similar to that you want to see, keep the ideas coming, because we are more than happy to make. We're basically happy to make anything we can think to make, and we would think of a lot more if you guys would help us out. So
yeah, I'm definitely going to start with Diva, just because I play a ton of Diva, and I just want to figure out the points for my own personal gain. But definitely keep an eye out for those. Those are all, of course, located at highnoonpodcast.com and also on the High Noon Podcast YouTube. So let us move on to our last segment, which has now become a regular, and we probably should make a drop for it. But it is Soldier Says. This is the segment, for those of you who have not heard it before, where our good friend and favorite DPS, well, second favorite to McCree, obviously, our most played at MLG Vegas DPS, Soldier 76, gives us some words of wisdom while playing on the ladder in Overwatch. So let's kick it over to Soldier 76. Soldier, Thank you, Blevins. Was that how you're supposed to do it? Like I kick it over?
Yeah.
And then, okay, I got it. And then I ruined it by explaining it, but we'll do it
Yeah.
next time. So Soldier says, it's better to do something wrong as a team than something right alone. At the end of the day, the win is all that matters. So I think that's pretty good advice, right? Like if your team is doing something stupid, as long as it's not like completely game-breakingly stupid, and if it is, you should probably like report them or something. I don't know. But like if your team is, not defending on the high ground on Route 66, while it may be better to do that in general, it's probably not better to do that alone and to leave your team hanging out to dry, especially if you are a healer or Reinhardt. Being stubborn is not going to help your team win. It's just going to help you become frustrated and help your team not win and maybe teach them some sort of veiled lesson. But maybe for another Soldier Says, we're going to say people don't learn lessons in quick match. That's probably an even better lesson. But yeah, do you have anything to add to that, Death? Like, have you experienced this at all?
I've used that in a similar analogy on the show before. If you're gonna make a mistake, leave a U-shaped hole in the wall when you run through it. Just do it at full speed. It's always better to do everything at 100%, whether it's right or wrong. So
true. Especially in Overwatch. So believe that's just about all we've got for today. I don't think I missed anything. Maybe, I don't know. We rambled on a little bit about some other stuff, but definitely some good topics. So, Death, where can we find you on the internet and elsewhere throughout the week?
Well, you can always go over to highnoonpodcast.com for links to everything, for our Twitter accounts, things like that. Also, keep an eye open for the MLG Vegas meta breakdown. I want to get into the numbers on that a little bit, though you guys got a sneak peek at some of my opinions already.
Yes. You can also, of course, find me over at highnoonpodcast.com. All the links and all the good stuff is on that wonderful, wonderful website. Also, check out youtube.com/highnoonpodcast, where apparently now we're going to be creating more YouTube content because it ignited like wildfire comparatively. So might as well keep doing it. But guys, thank you all for listening and all that stuff. Check out all the good stuff, highnoonpodcast.com. Everything in the world that you could ever want is there. Thank you to all the new YouTube listeners and followers and friends who have joined us from the newly acquired YouTube fame. It's really not that famous. It's got like 1,600 views, but comparatively, that's a lot of views for us.
1821.
It's literally almost died on camera. But yeah, guys, thank you all for that. And until next time, remember, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. Threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now guides my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Thanks everyone for a great 2017. We'll see 2016. I meant 2016. We'll see you guys in 2017. Goodbye.